Hello students, welcome to the class of Sonia Munjal. Through this video, I am continuing the same chapter, the Delhi Sultans. Children, in previous video, we have learned that how Delhi became a commercial center under Rajput dynasties and then turned into capital city under Delhi Sultans. And the three Delhi Sultans named Balban, Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, they played a very important role in the expansion of Delhi. But just to expand the territories or areas, that was not the only task for Delhi Sultans. Rather than to maintain, to rule, and to administer those expanded territories, those expanded areas was also very important and even challenging task in front of Delhi Sultans. So let's begin the topic a closer look administration and consolidation under the Khaljis and Tughlaq. Before proceeding towards the administrative structure, let's understand certain terms. The first term is about Bandegan. Bandegan, these were the slaves purchased for military service by Delhi Sultans. Generally, slaves were used for the odd works, but these were the special slaves because they were purchased for the military services and they were carefully trained by the Delhi Sultan so that they could hold the political offices in the kingdom. And the Delhi Sultans could trust and rely upon them because they were totally dependent upon them. So these Bandagans were very important slaves. Then Ikta. Khaljis and Tughlaqs appointed military commanders as governors of territories of different sizes. These lands were called Iktas. Means the Delhi Sultans had their army, had their military, and the leader of the military means military commander, they were granted a land, and that land was called Iktas, and the holder of that land was called Mukti or Iktadar. That was the third term. Means the commanders were given a land by the Delhi Sultans and they were given a post of governor and they were also called as Mukti or Iktadar. So these are the important terms. Now, functions of Muktis or Iktadar. Iktadar was the important person in the administration of Delhi Sultanate because they had so many powers. First of all, they were the leader of the military, clear, and they were given the land by the Delhi Sultanate. So, on account of that important position, they had to perform important functions as well. The first function is led military campaign. Now this was the duty of the Mukti or the Iktadar to lead the military campaigns or the military task for the expansion of the Sultanate. Then maintain law and order in their Iktas. This was the duty of the Mukti to maintain law and order in the given land. Means the land which was given to the Muktis, on that land it was the responsibility of the Muktis to maintain law and order. This was not the responsibility of the Sultan to look after the problems of law and order in the Iktas. Then collected revenue from their Iktas. Children, if you recall the second chapter, in second chapter we have done the role of Samantas. The Samantas were very important persons upon which the kings were dependent, because Samantas were given the responsibility of collecting the revenue, and they were also responsible for providing the military support to the king. In the same way, these muktis had the duty to collect the revenue from their iktas, and from their iktas they collected the revenue, and from that collected revenue they had to pay the salary to their soldiers, because this was the duty of the mukti to maintain the soldiers, because they had to lead the military campaign for the military expeditions or for the expansion of the sultanate. So they had to maintain a number of soldiers, and to the soldiers they had to give the salaries. So from the collection of the revenue they had to provide salaries to the soldiers as well. So these were the functions of the muktis. And when we have a look at the functions of the muktis, it seems that these muktis were very important people in the Delhi Sultanate. So to control the muktis, the Delhi sultans put some kind of restrictions upon the muktis, or they followed the special steps to ensure that the muktis perform their duties as well, and they could not raise their voice against the Delhi sultans. So the first step is that their office was not made hereditary, means their post was not hereditary. With the death of a mukti, the powers were ended, the post was ended, the powers were not given to his son. Clear? So the office was not made hereditary. Then they were assigned iktas as land as salaries, means besides this iktas nothing was given to the muktis. All the expenditures need to met out only with the amount of revenue which he collected from the iktas, and that too for a short period of time before being transferred. It means that for a long period of time he could not be a ikta over a particular land. The muktis could be transferred to another iktas. Then the third one, accountants were appointed, and these accountants were appointed by Delhi sultans, and these accountants had to check the amount of revenue, means how much revenue was collected by the mukti, or how much expenditure was made out of that collected revenue, how much saving was there. Everything was to be looked after by accountants. So the muktis were under the you can say under the accountants, because the accountants were given power by the Delhi Sultan. Then care was taken that mukti collect only the taxes prescribed by the state. Here state means by the Delhi sultans, means the muktis could not collect the taxes at his own wish. Whatever the taxes were decided by the Delhi sultans, only those taxes the mukti could collect. Then he kept the required number of soldiers, means a limit was decided by the Delhi sultans, that up to this limit only the mukti had to kept the soldiers, not beyond that limit. So all these restrictions were imposed upon the muktis. So sometimes the Muktis didn't like the decisions of Delhi Sultans, or they wanted to defy the orders of Delhi Sultans as well. This topic is very important for the examination point of view as well. Now, the next one is, how did the sultans control and consolidate such a vast kingdom? The consolidation of kingdom, or the control of a kingdom, needs reliable governors and administrators. मीन्स जितना बड़ा एरिया हो जाता है, जितना बड़ा किंगडम हो जाता है, उतने ही उसको एडमिनिस्टर करने के लिए, उसको कंसोलिडेट करने के लिए एक ट्रस्टवर्दी गवर्नर्स की और एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स की ज़रूरत पड़ती है. And for that, the early Delhi sultans trained special slaves. I told you about these special slaves, that they were given a training by the Delhi sultans so that they could be able to hold the political offices in the Delhi Sultanate. So these slaves were very important, and they played a very important role in Delhi Sultanate as well. And the Bandagans were loyal to their masters only, not to their sons. Clear? Not to their successors. They were loyal to their masters only, and that's why the Sultan could trust and rely upon them. In Delhi Sultanate, we have seen that the Delhi Sultans didn't have confidence and didn't have trust on their sons and family members. That's why they appointed these, they purchased these Bandagan and given them training. Next, military commanders were appointed as governors of territories of varying sizes called iktas. This I explained you in the previous slide. Then holders of iktas were collected iktadar or muktis. They were responsible for leading military campaigns for the expansion of Sultanate. Then they were responsible for maintaining law and order in the land given to them, and for collecting revenue in lieu of their duties or services. On the Muktis, accountants were appointed by the state to check the amount of revenue collected by the Muktis. Under Alauddin Khalji, the state brought the assessment and collection of revenue under its control. This was the step taken by Alauddin Khalji, that instead of depending upon the accountant directly, he brought the assessment and collection of land revenue under the direct control of state, under the direct control of Delhi Sultan. So this was the change made by Alauddin Khalji for the better administration. Now, collection of the revenue. This collection of revenue was very important, because the entire structure of the administration was dependent upon the revenue, and three types of taxes were collected under Alauddin Khalji. That was first one was house tax, then cattle tax, and then kharaj, 50% of the produce. Now this kharaj was actually, this was the tax, and it was decided that 50% of the total agricultural produce that would be taken as a tax by the peasants. Means this kharaj was amounting to about 50% of the peasants' produce. And then there was a tax on house and cattle as well. So these were the important sources of income in the administration of Alauddin Khalji. Now, impact of the Mongol invasions on the Delhi Sultanate. Now these Mongols were the invaders that came from Mongolia side, from the northeastern side. Now these Mongol invasion these Mongol invasions put a challenge before Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Now, first of all, let's see the impact. The northeastern part of Iran, Transoxania. This is the old name for Central Asia. Was invaded by Mongols under Genghis Khan in the year 1219. After the invasion of this area, Transoxania, the Mongols moved towards the Delhi side and they attacked on Delhi. And that attacks were made during the reign of Alauddin Khalji and the early reigning period of Muhammad Tughlaq. So there was an increase in the attack of the Delhi Sultanate. These invasions of Mongols put a lot of burden on Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq, because for this they had to mobilize, or they had to maintain a large standing army in Delhi, which posed a huge administrative challenge. So this is all about today's lecture, and in the next lecture I'll take the differences between the administrative features of Alauddin Khalji and Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So till then, stay tuned for the next video and keep learning. Thank you and have a nice day.